Lee. I don't know if Sam's been before in my classes. Hi, Eric. Hi, Julia. How's everyone doing?
Doing good. Thank you. How are you doing?
Excellent. How's the Ignite going? Like, is everything becoming more and more clear or confusing every day?
Clear. Getting there.
Getting there. It's a process. And the further you go, the things will start making more and more sense. You will think you figure it out at some point, and then things will become like so confusing you want to remember, and then the next class will clarify. So at the end, the whole idea is that you will have a really pretty good and clear idea how the process works. And then I always recommend repeat the Ignite, go back one more time, because that second time it will really then set in and make perfect sense. But so today we are supposed to talk about making and receiving offers, which is always a very exciting point of working, when you're working with buyers, because you probably spend already some time with them looking at different properties, and that process, maybe you've shown them only properties on, in a couple of days, or maybe you've been looking for 5-6 months. It all depends, but it's very exciting when they realize there is a property out there where they can envision their lives unfolding, and they are ready to make that offer. And especially when it's a first-time offer, in the market that we had before COVID started, and and also what's been happening now in the last month or even 2 months, it's become it's very competitive out there for majority of properties that are appropriately priced. So chances are also, you won't be writing only one offer with your buyer clients, that especially if they're first time buyers, sometimes it will take a few offers before, they realize what's needed to be done, in a competitive market, to be able to be selected and to open the escrow. But so let's go, I just also wanted to remind you, I hope you have been doing your daily exercises, and what we spoke a couple of weeks ago, when at the very beginning of the Ignite, it's very important to be doing things to grow your business and to run your business every single day. Lead generate, work on current deals if you have them, and continue learning, because that's how you're going to become more successful agent, a better agent, and you will feel also so much more confident. So it will be much easier to work with clients and also to get the deals done. So to begin with, let's just review the offer process. If you're working with the buyer, you are going to, once they're ready, you're going to prepare the offer, have a conversation with them, just go explain to them that, the offer is technically a purchase agreement, where all major elements of any agreements are identified. It identifies the parties of a contract, who is buying the property, who is selling the property. It's describing the property, so it will include the property address, it will include the APN number, all that, and then it's going to include the price and all other terms of of an offer. And The purchase agreement is one of the three main contracts that we use in our business, and you should become an expert, know it by heart. I recommend every 6 months, every year, take time to go back through it, because all of these car contracts constantly go through some revisions, sometimes small, sometimes big. And you'll be surprised that even sometimes the agents that have been in business for 20 years or so, they get surprised because they never realized there was an addition to the contract, or there was something in it. And you always want to be ready to answer all the questions that your clients might have about it. So, you're going to prepare the offer, you're going to write an offer, and then after that, you're supposed to present the offer. You are the person that's presenting the offer to the listing agent. And then you will get a response, and the chances are that you will then have to prepare your buyer clients' response to seller's response. And hopefully at the end of the day, you and your clients will be successful, and their offer is going to be accepted. And once we have a fully executive contract, the escrow is practically open, and will open the following business date, but the days will start counting right away. So so now let's go through this step just to get an idea of how you're going to first talk to your clients, prepare an offer, educate them, and take any guessing out of the equation, so that they feel confident about the offer that they're putting in, and they're also that you and your clients are having educated conversation about how to put in a successful offer. Because if you're just writing offers that don't make any sense, and especially if that client is coming from your clients not being educated about the market, about the comps in the area and what they're against for, if you don't provide as much feedback for them as possible, the chances are, it's not going to be a realistic, offer. So that's where our expertise comes to place. And hopefully you've already done a lot of the education of your buyer generally about the buying process during your, buyer's consultation, and, on every possible occasion while you were visiting, the properties, while you were discussing them, talking about them, and so forth. So the process works. So, once you put an offer, present the offer and send it to the listing agent, the listing agent will present that offer to the seller, and either it's going to be just your client's offer, or highly likely in today's market, there will be presented several offers at the same time. And just depending on how the property is priced, what the property is what kind of interest it generates, and what was the marketing and pricing strategy, basing on the response, sometimes you will see that there are deadlines already identified for offer submissions, and if it's a highly competitive situation. So sometimes, you have to be aware and make sure that you respond on time, so that your client's offer is considered. So once the listing agent presents an offer to the seller, it's up to seller to decide whether to accept an offer, whether to reject the offer, or to counter an offer. The most common thing that we see, in the marketplace, is that we will get a counter offer from like the seller, to which the buyer will respond. And again, like there could be a couple of rounds of negotiations, just depending on how competitive it gets. And like the seller and listing agent will definitely push as much as they can to get as high in price, and also to get like the most favorable terms for them like through this process. And it all depends on the comfort of all the buyers that are participating, where they are going to end in the end. This whole process of like counters, like it's where like negotiating skills of like agents are like very important, both the listing agent and like the buyer's agent. And maybe you'll get like lucky and the seller will decide to accept your client's offer as is. And like in case the seller decides not to even respond to your offer, if the seller decides to reject the offer, like whatever like whatever happens, it's very, very, very important that like you have good communication with the listing agent, that you have established even before you like advise your clients about putting an offer together, and before you presented the offer, because sometimes that good rapport between the two agents will be a deciding factor whether someone's offer is going to be accepted or not. That's why your relationships with the other agents, like in the area or like all over the city, are very, very important, because like, and will also affect how that listing agent is going to present your client's offer to his client. Like if you have a good like working relationship with that like agent, like they will usually like, it's naturally to think like that it's a good agent, that I've had good experiences before, the chances are they attract like reasonable buyers as well. And these people, like it will be like a nice process once we open escrow with them, rather than someone that is coming on like maybe like super strong or super not reasonable, like, or like just gives an expression that even like that agent like is an asshole, like nobody's gonna want to deal with this agent, or like, or possibly the client who hired this agent. Give me just one moment. I apologize, my dog is barking. I'm going to close the window so it's not disturbing. Okay, I hope this is better.
All good. It's all part of dealing with working from home. And
I managed to have my kids and my husband take the dog out, but he somehow made it back and came to the window, barking under the window. So anyway, but much better right now.
What is the best way to make an offer? Can you make a verbal offer, or do you have to fax it?
Definitely not a good idea. Like in theory, you can have like I think like oral agreement, but we deal with contracts, we deal with paperwork, and that is the best and the only way I've seen business get done like in today's market. And we will go over it, like what all is part of an offer. As like as I mentioned, the most important part of an offer is the residential purchase agreement, or as we like the short name for it, RPA, which is essentially like a 10-page agreement, which has like a couple of disclosures attached to it. And together with that, you also want to submit your client's pre-approval letter. So hopefully at the very beginning, when you started working with your clients, you had the discussion and made sure that either you're like, they have a lender that they're working with, or you have referred them to lenders good lenders. And hopefully you end up working with someone that you know very well, you know that they are like a good professional, responsive and resourceful lender that you have a history with, because that can make all the difference in the world, like during the escrow and making sure that your client's loan that gets approved in the end, and that if there are any like bumps along the road, that this person is going to be a team player, is going to work together with you and your clients to resolve any issues that come up. So anyway, hopefully you have a great lender on the team who has provided pre-approval letters. So your clients were already in the process looking for properties that are in the price range that they are pre-approved for. And listen, sometimes your clients will, let's say they are pre-approved for $1 million, and they are looking, you're looking in the range, and they've come up a property that's priced at $899. If you have a pre-approval for 1 million, you will definitely don't want to submit that pre-approval with your offer. You want to get an updated pre-approval that's in line with how much your client is offering on a property, because you don't want to reveal your cards upfront. You don't want to let them know that your clients can spend more money than is necessary. And when you're representing the buyer, you of course want your clients to get the best possible deal that they can. Sometimes also let me just list everything that we're going to be doing, and then I'll go through it. So apart from the residential purchase agreement, you will also include the pre-approval. You will also need to include the proof of funds. And these are usually bank statements showing that apart from the loan that your client is approved for, your client has liquid funds that can be used for the down payment, and that they can for the down payment, and also enough for the closing cost. So you will ask your client to give you the latest bank statement. I always recommend clients to do it, or most of the time I do it for them. Once they send you a bank statement, I always black out their address on the bank statement or the account number. So it's very important just that you can just see the name of the client, that it matches, that it's the same name on the account as the person on whose behalf you're submitting the offer. And in addition to these three things, I always advise my clients to include a cover letter. There is something to say about humanizing an offer and telling the story of your clients. I always say, I used to work in advertising before I started doing real estate. And I find that experience very helpful. And I always say, when I'm working on the listing side, I'm advertising the property that I'm trying to sell. And when I'm working with buyers, I'm running an advertising campaign for buyers. I want to present these buyers and myself as the most desirable buyers, the most desirable buyers to get into escrow with, and for me, the most professional and easiest agent to work with, because that's what the listing side is looking for. So with everything that you're submitting, you're telling a story. So in most of the time, unless you're dealing with a developer seller who is only in this to make money and to make profit, so they're not the ones that are going to be too interested to learn who you are, and if you have kids or not, or whatever. But I think even when you're working with developers, it's very important to include that letter to tell them how much you love the property. suck up to them, you know, like remember everything great about that house. Like even if it's a tear down, find something that attracts you to it, like how you see your life like unfolding there. If it's a developer, compliment them on all the work and finishes that they've done like in the house, because they have put their, you know, like blood, sweat and tears into that property and invested a lot of money, and you know, like, and are stressing out if they will do well, you know, like, or not. On the other side, when you have people who have lived in a house, especially if it's a house where they've had like many wonderful memories over years, they're very emotional about that sale, you know, like, and they like, especially if that's the house that they've taken care of, like they had wonderful life events happen for them there. They kind of like want to see, like they want to someone nice to take that property, you know, like from them and continue taking good care, you know, like of the property. So depending on who that is, and this is where it's very important that you like you find out as much information about this house and about the owners and what the owners are looking for, you know, like, and who are they as people from the listing agent before you submit your offer. So, you know, like I'll call the listing agent, you know, like, and I said, like, so let me, like, I'll first, like, always Google the people, you know, like the owners, you know, like of a, like, property. And, you know, like, you'll be surprised how much you can learn from Google and from checking people's, you know, like social media accounts. You might find out, you know, like some, you know, might find out that you have like some shared like interest, or they're really into something. Maybe they're into like some, you know, like charity, or like well, whatever, like you're trying to find something and you're trying to make some type of an emotional connection, so that will set you apart from everyone else that's in the process. So, you know, like I will always have this conversation with the listing agent, you know, like I will, you know, like find out who the people who are selling the house, you know, like are, why are they selling, what's their motivation, you know, like if there is anything specific that's very important for them, you know, like maybe it's someone who just wants to close as soon, you know, like as possible. So if you like are able, and this is all very important information once you're discussing the terms of an offer with your client, you like, and if your buyer client is flexible about the closing like date, and they can close like a little bit, you like earlier, you're like, maybe that's gonna be like the winning thing, like in your offer. Maybe it's opposite. Maybe you like this, you know, like seller is like needs to sell fast, but wants to stay longer in the house. So maybe they're looking for a lease back option. And if your client has flexibility and is able to close, let's say in 30 days, but let these people stay for another month until they close on their deal, or until they like pack and move, or whatever it is, like that's an very important thing to know, so that you can make it a part of your, you know, like offer. And once you find out all of this, you have a conversation with your buyer clients and tell them, okay, so this is who we are dealing with. And you like, and apart for I'm so sorry, like a part of, you like what you're finding out from the listing agent, not only about the owner, not, you know, like, and anything related to the house, but you also want to find out what the situation is. Like, have they received any offers already? Like, have they, you know, like considered any? Have they responded to any? Do they have currently offers on the table? And when is the like owner seller looking to make a decision, like, and select an, you know, like offer? You also want to try to find out if there are other existing offers, either the ones that have been rejected, or if they are, you know, like, if they've received them, or if they have a deadline set up. You want to try to find out, you know, like if, you know, like which price range they're in. So like, let's say if the property is listed for $80,99, like, and you're calling the listing agent and said like, what's the situation like? Like, do you have you like any offers? Have you received like any? And they said like, yes, we have 2 offers and we're expecting at least 2 more by tomorrow. So it's like, okay, great. Like, and you like always ask, try to find a way and try for several different angles to try to find out where they are with these offers. Sometimes they're not going to tell you a thing, and sometimes they will. So you never know. They don't have to reveal to you, and sometimes they can't reveal to you. You know, like sometimes, you know, like they will say like the seller asked me not to reveal anything, or they will say like, I don't think it's fair if I reveal anything, like I want everyone to have a fair chance. Just talk to a client, let them give me the best offer. Or sometimes they will be very open to you and they will tell you, you like, and like just ask questions and more questions, and you like, and try to bring them to the point when they're gonna break and give you as much information as you like, as you can get. So if they tell me like, you like, I'll ask like, so where are you with the offers? You like right now? And they'll say like, we over the asking price. Over the asking price could be like it's listed for 80 or 99 and they're at 900 right now, or it could mean that they're up to $1 million. You're like, so you're trying to then narrow down and go with more questions and try to find. So it says like, how much over are you? You're like, and some, and they said, oh, I can't tell it. And they said like, are you, can you at least tell me like, are you're like up to 920, like, or 950, just whatever your first gut feeling is. If you think it was really underpriced, like as a listing price, like then you're gonna, you know, like try to find out like a little bit higher. So see what you can get from them, because any piece of information you can get from the listing agent can make such a huge difference. And, you know, like, and you can get as much information to your clients so that they can make a comfortable, you know, like decision about what to put, you know, like which price to put their offer at, and also to decide what to do about the terms. You know, like, while you're dealing with, you know, like the price, you will definitely want, once it's the time and your clients have selected a property, you definitely want to produce a comparative market analysis, you know, like for them. And look in the area, select the comps that are most relevant and most similar to the property that your clients are planning to put an offer for, and then see, you know, like what the trends are. Sometimes you can do a competitive market analysis and give it to them, but sometimes it's not even going to be that relevant, you like, because at that point they have like 10 or 15 other offers on the table. And you like, and sometimes, you know, like, you never know what other buyers will be willing to pay for that property. Sometimes there's just going to be someone who is going to be like, properties listing, let's say for $899, the, you know, like market value according to comps is $950, but there's going to be another buyer out there who's going to be willing to pay 1 million or even 1.1, you know, like for that property, and there's nothing you can do about it. Like people, you know, like if they have money and they want to spend and they're for some reason crazy about that specific property or something related to that property, you know, like they will just go for it, you like, and then it's up to your clients to, you like, you advise them and you just say like, my professional opinion is that the market value of this property is so and so. At this moment, they have 10 offers. They're already like 50,000 over the like asking, you like, price. According to the, like, but you also have to know the market. You have to know what the current trends are, like what's happening, like what happened during the, you know, like when the last comp in the area like went into, you know, like into escrow, how many offers they had. If you like, and you know, like, I always do that. Like while I'm doing the comparative market analysis, I will reach out to the listing agents of all the properties that have either sold, you know, like, or that are currently in the escrow. And even for the properties that are currently in the escrow, sometimes the listing agents will not say which price they ended up in the escrow for, because like they're just afraid that maybe their escrow is not going to work out and they will have to go back to the to the market. But sometimes they will be like if you ask them nicely and just say I'm just comping a property in the area, and it would be I will be very happy, like if we end up in the escrow, I'll be very happy to share all the feedback about this property with you so that you know what's going on in the market. Can you please just let me know or give me even like a ball game or where you ended up in the on your accepted offer. So once I share all of this information for my client, I will let them process the information and then tell them, but listen, you have to give an offer that you are comfortable with. There are other people out there that seems to be super competitive. Maybe someone is going to give $200,000 over the asking price, but that should not concern you. You should just worry about you and what you are comfortable with. And the magic word working with buyer clients, especially during any type of negotiations, and also especially putting an offer together, is repeating the word comfortable and making sure that your clients are comfortable with whatever they are offering without worrying about anybody else. Because if you somehow push them to put a competitive offer and they're not comfortable with, trust me, it's going to backfire. They're going to back out of the escrow. They're going to change their mind. They're going to get cold feet. They're going to have buyer's remorse. They're going to hate you because they're going to feel you pressured them into something. It's very important. Provide the information. Share the data with them and remind them that they are in the driver's seat. They're the ones making a decision, and it's your role to make sure that they're comfortable with whatever they are deciding, whether it's what kind of offer to put in or how to respond to the seller counter offer. Whether they are they going to, maybe seller is in their counter offer going to ask them to give up their inspection contingency. Maybe the seller is going to ask them to give up their appraisal contingency, or both. Some people are comfortable with it, some people are not. And you do not want your clients to respond in a way that they're not comfortable, because it's not going to end up well. And it's going to be a waste of time on everyone's part. So, and just also always be aware that there's so much emotions happening at this moment, both with buyers and sellers. It's a great thing when you're able to work with both buyers and sellers, because there's nothing like really witnessing and working with each side to just learn how they think, what they feel, what's their thought process, and be able to share this with your clients on the other on the other side. So make sure that you answer all of your clients, buyer clients, questions, also sellers, absolutely, but especially the buyers, many of them, and most likely for you in the beginning of your career, you're going to be working with first time buyers, and they are a wreck. They're nervous. They're making one of the biggest financial decision they've ever made in their life so far. They are making one of the biggest purchases that ever make in their life, and they've never been in this process before. They are scared. They're always thinking that they are overpaying, just like the sellers are always thinking that they're not getting as much as their house is worth. They are super excited at the same time, they really want to get this property. At the same time, they they are scared, and it's your role to hold their hand through the process, to make sure they remain calm, to reassure them, to answer all the questions that they have. So in my experience, like most misunderstandings, like and fear and all of that comes from not knowing and not understanding, so just communicate, be in constant communication with your clients. I would at this point avoid emails and texts, just, in-person communication is always the best, although in this conditions that we are living with right now, it's very hard. So most of the time you will be having a phone conversations, or maybe FaceTime or Zoom calls for them. But that direct communication is very important, because you can really anticipate and feel if there is anything you need to address in the conversation with them, which you often cannot do through written communication like email and text. And so often you will be misunderstood, and you will also misunderstand what your clients wrote. So keep that communication open at at all times. So the little preparation goes a long way. And I guess can you go to there is on page 3, there is a tool, there's a checklist in your guide, and I think that Ed already had it open. And let's go through it just to make sure that we've covered it.
Yeah, this checklist to prepare an offer is in the Ignite toolkit. I can open up that page specifically if you want, Dragana, or I can leave it here. This shows a little bit of it.
Yes, so I can also should I share my screen, or do you want to share?
Sure, however you'd like. You can share your screen. You tell me. Everything's good.
Okay.
Hold on, before you do that, let me make sure. So,
I don't think I have the possibility at the moment. You might need to make me.
Give me 1 second.
Sure.
Okay, now you can share, Dragon, anything you want.
Okay, great. Okay. Why am I? Do you mind opening up Ed on your screen? Because for some reason.
Isn't it on the screen?
There's just it only shows a little piece of it. Let me go down here. Okay, so we're doing the checklist to write an offer, right?
Yes.
Hold on a second. There's another one called checklist to prepare an offer.
Okay, so can you guys see my screen now?
Oh, cool.
Yes.
Okay. So again, checklist to write an offer. First, price and terms. Consult with your buyer to arrive at the most logical offering based on the CMA and items below. So have you guys seen the an example of a residential purchase agreement? Let's open one of them. So
by the way, on that note, Dragon, a quick little announcement that John Davidson is going to be teaching a Contracts 101 class here shortly. Also, for anyone who's in coaching, I've got a quick little video, a 10-minute video on how to fill out an RPA, an offer. And then also Pete Bonacor is going to be doing a class on CMAs here. All of this is going to those two classes are going to happen here in the next couple of weeks.
Do not miss them by any chance. John Davison is our broker of records, and he's the one that teaches all of the contracts classes. He's great. He's not on, like, he gives a really nice, like, interpretation of the contract and different parts, explains like what they address, like, and, like, and all of that. He's an amazing resource. And Pete Bonacor, again, he is, like, especially him being like a big numbers guy, he is a great person to learn how to put together a comparative market analysis from. So, like, if you guys see my screen, like, I opened, like, the RPA package. So the first, like, the first disclosures that attached to it is the disclosure regarding real estate agency relationship. And it basically identifies you as, like, the agent representing the buyer who is submitting the, like, the offer. And so it's like, it has, that's the first page. Second page is just like a small, like, print of this disclosure. There is another disclosure that's part of the residential purchase agreement. It's the possible representation of more than one buyer or seller, disclosure and consent. Basically, like, explains both to your, like, buyer clients, and to sellers that, like, any listing agent and any, like, a particular moment could have, like, several different, like, listings and several different clients. The same thing about, like, you representing a buyer, you also can represent multiple buyers at the same time. And sometimes this, like, maybe you're going to be placing an offer with the listing agent. So the listing, there's going to be a dual agency where a listing agent is representing both the seller and, like, the buyer. So that's all, like, included on this, like, form. And this form is also the part of the buyer, like, representation agreement. So hopefully you have already had it signed with your clients. Included in the purchase agreement is the wire fraud and electronic funds transfer advisory, basically just advising all the parties to be extra careful whenever wiring any funds, because as we all know, there is, like, wire fraud, and, like, and it's very, very important. And please remind your clients that, let's say, like, they open the escrow and they need to initiate the earnest money deposit, like, wire, it's very important whenever they receive wiring information from the escrow that they make the actual phone call and go on the phone over all the wire instructions and confirm them. Because sometimes, like, things happen online and someone is going to get in and, like, and send the information, and the money is going to end up in someone else's, like, account. So this is just, like, something that you're making sure that your clients are aware of, so that, like, your transaction is bulletproof, as safe as possible. So this is the page 1 of the California Residential Purchase Agreement and joint escrow instructions. So as you see, like, on top right here, like, you're putting the date that you're preparing the offer, you're saying the name of the buyer, you're identifying the property with the address, the IPN number, you are listing the purchase price that this offer is for, you are suggesting the, like, when is the escrow going to close, like, most common is usually 30 days. You're also, identifying who the listing agents and brokerage is, like, and as well as, like, who you are and who the brokerage that you're associated with is. Then you're just listing, if this is a loan offer, you're going to list, like, here under number 3, like, you're going to be listing, is this a cash offer or this is, like, a loan offer? How much is the initial or earnest money, like, deposit? It's typically 3%. Then, like, you're identifying also how much, if you're buying this, most cases, this is going to be like a loan purchase. You're identifying, like, what is the down payment and what is the amount of the loan. You also, 3 of the main terms are, like, the contingencies, and 3 main contingencies are the, like, inspections contingency and the two contingencies connected to the loan, which is appraisal contingency and the loan contingency. And they are all identified here. So under H here, first you are checking off here that the verification is attached of the, like this is for the proof of funds. And also you're letting them know that you're attaching the, like pre-approval. And then you are letting them know what is the loan, like first under I, what is the appraisal contingency. By default, it's 17 days after acceptance. Before the COVID situation, you would often see this being cut shorter to like 14 or even 10 days. Like during the COVID situation, it's like everything loan related has been like delayed because there's just so many COVID overlays. So I, at this time right now, always advise my clients in the initial offer just to go by default appraisal and loan contingency. So appraisal is by default 17 days, loan contingency is by default, by contract default 21 days. And then if that's like something that the seller is going to push for, we can have a conversation with the lender and see how realistic it is. But like in most of the cases, listing agents are not really pushing too much to cut these dates shorter, which wasn't the case before. Just because realistically, we all know that lenders are very overwhelmed right now because of super low interest rates. They have so many loans that they are, like processing, both the like refinancing of homes and the, like, and the loans for purchase of homes. So like that the process just, like takes time. You're also discussing on the RPA allocation of costs, like what's going to be covered by the seller, what's going to be covered by like the buyer. Kind of like a standard thing is that like natural hazard disclosure report is provided like by the seller, and that the seller also pays for like retrofit like inspections that like the seller usually typically chooses the escrow and title company that they are working with. Like buyers will, like for example here under number 10, buyer will usually select the home warranty like company. And then like the escrow and title fees are usually divided. Buyer and seller each paid for their own like part of like fees. Then also number 8, you're discussing what items are included in the sale. So you just want to make sure that you check off and ask for all of the appliances that are there, for all the pictures and everything else. And maybe there is something like your clients went to the house and they saw something that looks really amazing over there that's not necessarily a fixture. The fixtures typically should come with the property unless it's specifically listed and noted that a certain thing is not included in the sale. So sometimes maybe your buyer is going to see some, like some personal item, like on the property that works really well with that property, and maybe they're going to ask for it, and maybe seller is going to be open to it or not. It also depends what you're going to ask for on how competitive this, like the whole offer situation is, because like if there's too many buyers, and like it's very competitive, you don't want to ask for too many things. And again, you're supposed to appear as a very easy buyer agent team, so you don't want to ask for too many things, like because then they're just not going to want to deal with you. Then another major term that you are discussing on the RPA is the inspection contingency. So first, there is written part of it, so there is paperwork to go through in relationship to the property. Your buyer client will be receiving a whole set of seller disclosures about the property. Main parts being the transfer disclosure statement and seller property questionnaire, where sellers are asked in details to say everything that they know about the condition of the property or any work that they've done of the property, or like anything that has like come to their attention like over the period of time. Most of the sellers are honest and they will like fill this out like honestly, but like some sellers either are not honest or sometimes forget about things in regards to their house, and they will just not going to be included on seller disclosures. And that's why we strongly advise our clients to inspect the property, to bring the professionals, inspectors, and inspect any side, like anything in the house that they have concerns about. In most of the cases that like typical like in like $1 to $2 million range, you would typically do like a general inspection, you will do sewer inspection and termite inspection, and also chimney if like, and fireplace if there is a fireplace in the house. So these are kind of like primary inspections that you're bringing professionals in to check out all of the major house systems that high price tags are related to fixing anything that comes up on those inspections. So ideally here under 14A and B, you will specify how many days like the seller has to provide all the disclosures. I prefer to ask to get this seller disclosures as soon as possible in the process, because I like my buyer clients to have a chance to go through all the paperwork and to go through everything that seller disclosed about the property before they bring in inspectors. Because oftentimes in these disclosures, you will get little red flags or things that you will want to bring to inspectors' attention on the day of the inspection, and try to get a little bit more clarification about things. Like the big red flags are like if the seller discloses that they added square footage to the property, and that they've done any work on the property without permits, which is like, I'm sure, Ed, that's your experience. It's not uncommon at all that like people nowadays do unpermitted work like on their houses. So like just put it in a perspective to your clients, but give your clients also a chance to advise with the inspectors about the work that was done without permits, and see if the inspector can shed any light on how that work seems to have been done, or if they have any more questions for the sellers to find out. So, like more about that, you will learn, like go to this, classes, and, like you will also learn more about the inspections. But the section 14 is a big inspection, like a section to concentrate on while you're filling out the purchase agreement. So I typically ask for seller to have 3 days to provide seller disclosures, for that reason, so that my clients has enough time to go through them and ask any questions in regards. And by default in the and if you look on the contract here under 14B, the buyer has 17 days after acceptance to conduct all the inspections. I have not witnessed in last 5 years any inspection contingency being longer than 10 days. Typically, like in last couple of years, this was either 7 or 10 days, sometimes even less than that. And sometimes in super competitive situations, your client will not even have buyer's contingency. So in this case, like we asked for 10 days and the sellers, approved it. And then you will learn more about the contract, then a big part of the contracts are remedies for buyer's breach of contract and the dispute resolutions, like number 21 and 22, and then also you know, like you will have your client, you know, like signed at the bottom of page 9. The seller, if they accept, they will sign on page number 10, either accepted as is, or they will be including the accepting it with some other conditions, which will be listing on, you know, like a seller counter, like offer.
I have a question. If there is any work done that without permission, what would happen?
Again, you know, like it's up to your client to decide. You can do, you know, like you can try to find out from the seller, like, and that's not part of this class. I just don't want to, you know, like, but I'll tell you, like, that's, again, like anything else in this, you know, like process, everything is up to the negotiation and whether your client is comfortable with something or, you know, like, or not. So they can find out, gather more information from the seller about the work that has been done. You know, like they can hire additional inspectors to hire the specific system or whatever they did without the permits, just to get the assurances that it was done okay. Down the line, they might decide to like obtain the permit and, you know, like add, maybe if it was like added square footage, to add it to the official square footage of the property. But again, this is all up to the negotiations, you know, like, and whether your client is, you know, like comfortable accepting it as is or not, or is willing to accept it with some price like adjustment. Negotiation. And as part of the purchase agreement, you also have the buyer's inspection advisory, which again gives a little bit more information about like the inspections, and like strongly advises buyers to hire inspectors and to, you know, like inspect the property. So this is, you know, like another disclosure as part of it is like statewide buyer and seller advisory, which kind of like goes through the whole like process again. And many of these disclosures, as you will find out, they overlap, and many of them cover the same things. But you know, like it's just part of the compliance and what's required both from the California Association of Realtors and also by our brokerage, you know, like, and our clients department. So these are all parts of your offer, in addition to going back, checklist to write an offer. You know, like, so all of this, you know, like we cover while going through the RPA, you know, like time for seller's acceptance, like what's the earnest money, like deposit, again, typically it's like 3%, what are the financing terms, buyer pre-approval letter, we cover that, including them together with the agreement. Like, so that's the pre-approval letter, and list the amount that you like that your client is pre-approved for. After the escrow opens, the actual loan approval process starts, and it takes whatever you negotiate in that deal, typically like 3 weeks to get that official, you know, like approval. Most of the cases, buyers who were pre-approved will get approved in the end as well, but sometimes they will not. Like maybe some of their circumstances have changed, or something has changed in, you know, like in the process, like for example, the whole COVID crisis, people will lose jobs, or, you know, like whatever it is. But if your client has that contingency, they can, you know, like, and the contingencies are basically protections for your clients to be able to pull out of escrow, is if for some reasons things don't work out. If based on inspections, they acquire new knowledge of the property and they're not comfortable purchasing the property with whatever they found out through the inspection process, or, you know, like they were not able to negotiate a new price with the seller based on these findings, or if, for example, the property doesn't appraise at the value that the purchase, you know, like their offer was for. Let's say like your client was willing to like pay $1 million, but the appraisal came and you like appraised the property for $950. then that's another point where you can come back and try to negotiate and tell the seller, like, listen, my client was willing to, like, pay this much. He loves the property, but unfortunately for all of us, the appraisal didn't really come through. My client doesn't have, like, so the lender will only be able to lend you up to $950 purchase price. And sometimes maybe your client is willing to pay additional cash because they really love that property and they want to have it, and like they have money to cover it. But sometimes they're not, and they're able to get out of escrow based on that, or to renegotiate like a better price. And also, if the loan doesn't get approved in the end, they're able to pull out of escrow and collect their earnest money deposit, get their earnest money deposit back. So it's not in danger because they had all these contingencies. We discussed in the contract, you always typically ask for home warranty. And I don't know if you had a chance to meet Mary, who comes often to our office. I really like Mary. She works with Fidelity, and I usually ask for her to provide the home warranty, and escrows my clients are for. And again, cover letter, I always advise it, do it and just tailor it. I always keep on file several different versions of what I think are good cover letters, and I share them with my clients. I have one sample coming from a family. There is one sample of a cover letter for a developer seller, just a different. You have to adjust them and to adjust the language in regards to who you are giving the offer to. The new thing, typically, the offers, all the documents we find through zip forms, and we send it to our clients through DocuSign, to sign, for electronic signatures. Now that we have Command, we have all these functionalities built in the Command. And Ed, can you tell us a little bit more about this part? Is this fully functional? Have you been using it through Command?
I haven't used it to create an offer. I know you can use DocuSign through Command. And in fact, one of the first things you do is sign up to get a free version of DocuSign with Command. So you'd be crazy not to take advantage of that. But I still create my offers in zip forms and then push them straight to DocuSign from zip forms. I don't pull stuff into Command until after the offer has been accepted, and then I do use it for all the TC, everything from acceptance all the way to closing. Mm-hmm. I understand that it is possible. I expect I was just looking at this here, but I haven't fully explored it yet, and I believe it's functional, and you can use it even in LA. So. Mm-hmm. Having said that, I'll probably check it out for my next offer just to try it out. So if anyone wants to try it, go for it. I believe it is functional. A long answer to a short question.
Yeah, I haven't used the Command for putting the offers in. I also go to zip forms, download, fill out all of these card documents, which are part those disclosures and the purchase agreement that I went over, fill it out in zip forms, and then send it to clients for signatures through DocuSign. But I also plan to explore all of that in Command, especially after the last meeting that we found out that now the DocuSign subscription comes for pretty much for free if you are using it through Command. So that's that. And for some reason, I am just trying to see how I can go. Okay, to the.
Can a buyer pull out for any reason and not lose their deposit after the offer is accepted?
That's why you have contingency dates. So if you have your contingencies in place, and so that's why it's very important to set up realistic contingency dates. and to keep your clients in line to respect these contingency dates. So if they change their, they have 10 days inspection contingency, you want to schedule, you want to make sure that they get the seller disclosures as soon as possible. You want to make sure that you help them schedule inspections as soon as possible, so they have plenty of time to inspect the property, to get the reports back, to make sure there is not additional inspections that maybe the general inspector is going to come in and he's going to say listen, smells moldy in here. I really recommend your clients do a mold inspection, so which is considered the secondary inspection. So you want to have time to organize the general inspection, in first couple of days of escrow, so that if there's any red flags, anything else that you need to explore, whether it's to get quotes for the work that was recommended to be done. Let's say the general inspector is going to come and going to say I think that the roof is in really poor shape and maybe doesn't have any more life left, you will need to replace the roof, or they will tell you you need to fix this and that. You want your clients to have enough time, and you will often help them get quotes from different vendors, so that once you collect all of this information, you can go back and maybe your client is just going to say listen, there's so much work that needs to be done on this house. It's just not for me. I don't have time to deal with with it. It's just not the house that I imagined that it was, because you're starting the escrow thinking that majority any house, there's always going to be something, even the house, wherever you're living right now, whether it's yours or it's a rental. If you would bring an inspector in, he would bring up 20 different things about that that place. But you're mostly concerned about the safety issue, about the big price price tag items in the house. So they're going to be big systems, and once you have the knowledge of what needs to be done for that house to be in good shape, and what your client will likely have to do after the close of escrow, or maybe you will ask the seller to fix that before the close of escrow. You want to have plenty of time to gather all this knowledge and prepare requests for repair or credits, get back to the seller, try to either pull out of escrow because your client is not ready to do any more work, or try to renegotiate the price, or to renegotiate for the seller to do any work that's needed to be done. And based on that, and based on seller's response, and seller, just like always, can accept, reject, or counter. And then you might need to go for a couple of different phases of this and go back and forth until buyer and seller come to an agreement. And if there's no agreement, then it's up to your client. Do they want to stay in escrow, or do they want to get out? But it's very important that they are making this decision while they're still within the contingency period, so their deposit is intact and they get it all back.
So if they just saw another house and they said, I don't want this house anymore, I want to purchase a different house, that would be an instance where they would lose their deposit?
Not necessarily if you're within the inspection process. Hopefully that's not the case, because it's not really, and I always believe that there should be a good faith on both sides, in any deal, and it's not really fair to the seller, but maybe something like that is going to happen, and you can use your inspection contingency and just say, if you're still within that 10-day period, and just say, my client unfortunately had a change of heart, and we're pulling out of escrow, but please communicate that to the listing agent as soon as possible, because it's not fair to keep the seller in the escrow that's not going to close, and you want to give them the chance to go back to the market and still get what's a fair amount for their property.
Okay, thank you.
So question for you, Ed. I am on this Zoom window, I'm trying to stop sharing my screen. And for some reason, I just see who the participants are. Like, I'm not seeing the whole functionality of the Zoom. I don't know if you can do that for me.
You want me to stop sharing your screen?
Yeah, if you can, that would be great.
Cool. There you go.
For now, perfect. And so that's that. And again, there is like so many, like go to the classes that Ed recommended, go to the purchase agreement class with John Davidson, and also go to the CMA class with Pete Bonacore that are going to be happening in next couple of weeks. And they will be announced tomorrow at the meeting. So make sure you're available and attend this classes. So I also, once you put the offer together, again, you're communicating with your clients, they sign the offer, then I would, again, get in touch with the listing agent. I would let them know for sure that even while I'm preparing the offer, I will tell them you will be hearing from us. So they are aware that your offer is coming, because what you don't want, you're working on an offer and during that day, the seller accepts another offer. So you want to make sure they know that your offer is coming, and that and that they wait for your offer so that they don't accept anybody else's. I also like to do a cover email from me addressed to the listing agent, which I want to communicate that I'm very excited that my clients love the property, and I'm very excited about the possibility of working with that listing agent. In this case, the cover letter from the buyer will be reaching directly the seller, and my email is reaching the listing agent. When I am the listing agent, what I like to see when another agent submits an offer, I want to get a feeling from that offer and how it's presented, that it's a good agent, a knowledgeable and professional agent, and super organized one, because that's someone that you want to be in escrow with. So I make sure that my email is very well laid out, that it briefly addresses my clients. It clearly lists the main points of the offer in the body of the email, so that at a glance this agent immediately sees what's on the offer. And I try to combine all other documents in one PDF. I always put the cover letter first as a first page, then follow it with the purchase agreement, and at the very end I include proof of funds and the pre-approval letter. So when the listing agent gets something that's as well organized, they will have a good gut feeling about working with me and will want to do business with me as well. And and I will always follow up with them, and I said, I will say please, let me know, we look forward to hearing from the seller. Please let me know if the seller has any questions about this offer. And I will just make sure that they know that my door is open, and that, let me know how we can make this work for both of our clients, so that we open the escrow, because they want to get into the escrow. They want to make sure that their client is getting the best terms, in the price and so forth. So, it's not a good idea. It is a negotiating point, but in multiple offer situation, it's very important that you let them know that you're open for more conversation. So, that you can come to an acceptable offer, for the seller, so that they will sign in and your client's offer will be accepted. Some of the things that you and you will learn as you as you go, you will be probably, especially first-time buyers, they will always be super conservative about the price that they will be offering. So again, very important that you're educating your clients about what is the current situation. If it's buyer's market, then you you could be conservative, with the price, and also based on which pricing strategy you determined was used on this particular, property. But these are very important conversations you need to have with them. Explain to them what is the listing price. Listing price is a pricing strategy. Some sellers and agents overpriced properties, some list them at the market value. Most of the cases in the last 5-6 years, the pricing strategy that has been most successful is slightly underpricing and letting the bidding war start and negotiating higher price to that. So it's very important that your clients are aware of whatever the climate is. Is this a seller market right now? Is it a buyer's market right now? What's happening and what they can expect, so that they understand. And sometimes you will tell them all of this, and they're the ones who are going to be making the final decision. Sometimes they will listen to you, sometimes they will not. Sometimes they will need to write a couple of offers and thinking they're going to get by with low ball offers before they learn their lesson and understand that they need to listen to you, they need to listen to the market, and that only reasonable offers, especially in multiple offer situation, and sometimes super aggressive offers, are going to be the only winning offers. Again, once the seller receives the offer, the seller will review the offer or offers with the seller. And the seller will sometimes, if someone is not as diligent as you will be as a buyer agent and provide all this very helpful information to the listing agent, it's the role of the listing agent to try to gather as much information about the buyer and about their offer as possible. If you're a good listing agent, you will want to, learn how long this buyer has been, looking for. Does this buyer's agent know this buyer well? How long they were working together? You want to try to find out how many offers have you written for this, buyers. If that, if you find out that the buyer has written 5 offers, that's gonna be a red flag, and you're gonna think well, this seems not a very reasonable buyer. If they've lost in 5 offer situations, so forth. You want to also try to find out what's their motivation for buying, how soon they they want to move in, just so that you can provide as much information to your seller client as possible, so that they can also respond in the best possible way and achieve to get in the end the highest price for the property and best possible terms. And then based on what your client gets, you will help your client put together a seller counter offer. Sometimes it's going to if there is a multiple offer situation, your seller client will be responding with seller multiple counter offer, which indicates and notifies the buyers that there are other buyers who are in the counter process. Or if they're just responding to one counter offer, they will respond on a form that's called seller counter offer. So on seller counter offer, so they will list only the items from the purchase agreement that they want revised. So for example, if they agreed on everything else except for the price on on the purchase agreement, they will only address the price on the seller counter offer. Sometimes they will specify, remember how I mentioned on the purchase agreement that typically seller selects escrow and title company. So typically on seller counter offer, seller will identify who, unless they did that in the offer guide, which when I'm a listing agent, I like to do that. I put together a PDF document and tell like what is like the like asking price, what are the preferred terms of my seller client, like who are the services that we are like using and all of that, so that hopefully we get all of that already on a purchase agreement and don't need to go through like the counter office like offers. But many times this like these additional terms will be clarified on the seller counter like offer. Sometimes you will get the exact number, like let's say like the property was listed, as I mentioned, at $899. They receive like like one offer or like 3 offers, but like they use the underpricing strategy. So you're like, and the seller actually really wants to get like $950 in this process. Sometimes seller is going to get back to you and put that exact number on their counter offer and just say price to be $950,000. Majority of the cases, which we, when we present buyers, always hate, is when they send us and ask for best and final offer, because it leaves it open. Sometimes the listing agents will be helpful and will be able to give you some feedback, and it's your responsibility as a buyer's agent to find out as much as possible where they are with the price and terms on the other offers in order to advise your client what it's going to take to have a winning like offer. Sometimes they will not be like willing to share any of that information, and they will just say like, we just want it to be fair. Talk to your client, let your client get back to us and give us their like best like offer. Again, once your buyer client gets the seller's counter offer, they can do one of the 3 things. As always during negotiations, they can accept, they can reject, or they will counter. Most of the time you come to an agreement with terms after the first round of counters, sometimes in second. Rarely you will go through 3 or more rounds, but sometimes it like, and it happens. Again, always remind your clients whenever you're presenting an offer or counter offer to them, whichever side it comes from, that they have options, so they don't feel trapped or nervous or like lost in the process. Always remind them, just say, you can accept, you can reject, or you can counter. And most importantly, you need to do what's comfortable with you. They will always be like, well, what if that client, like if that buyer gives like this much, or like, just remind them, don't worry about the competition. Don't worry about the others. What's the best terms and the higher price that you're willing to pay for this particular property, that you will still be comfortable and happy to get this property for and end up in escrow for, and not like regret it at the end of the day, and be perfectly fine if someone else offer even like $2,000 or $5,000 like over, but you will be fine letting it go for that price. Like, that's the script that you're running, because you really do want your client to be comfortable with whatever in the end they offer.
Hey, Dragana, just FYI, we have a hard finish time at 1 o'clock, so you've got 5 minutes left on the.
Okay, I will then storm through this, but I thought like all of this was important, like to to know. Again, it's all in negotiations. It's all in the right communication, both with your clients, whether you're working with a seller or a buyer, and having a good communication with the agent on the other side. Because if you're having a good rapport with that agent, often you will get more information than the other agents will get, and you in the end will be hopefully able to make sure that your client's offer gets accepted. Any questions? How does this all sound to you? Does it make sense? Do you have more questions? Anything add that I forgot to mention that you think is important?
This is awesome. I hope you guys appreciate it. I mean, it took me years to learn some of the things that Dragana there were some nuggets of gold that Dragana was sharing with you guys here. So I hope you guys took lots of notes, and we are recording it so you can go back and listen to it. But this was awesome. There was so much detail that Dragana talked about that was, often overlooked in a negotiation and counteroffer class.
Thank you, Dragana. It was very helpful.
Thank you so much. Any questions, Amal, like Julia, Sam?
Thank you,
Jenny.
If you have like a client who wants to make an offer on several different houses, like they like 2 different houses, what do you do in that situation? Or how long can you give? Like, if you make an offer, is there like a time frame get it done by so they can move on to the next house if they don't get that one?
So it's all in that, like timeline. Sometimes you will be in that situation, and as long, like, again, you have to keep in mind that you want to be as fair as possible in the process, while at the same time like making sure that you're making sure that your client is going to get the best possible deal on a property that's really the right match for your clients. Like, it all needs to make sense. I was recently in a similar situation back in February, and it was especially tricky because the 2 houses that my clients loved and was torn between were the houses listed by the same brokerage.
Oh.
So it was a very, very tricky one. It was same brokerage, small brokerage, and 2 different listing agents, but I knew that they were communicating back and forth. Again, as an agent, you're helping your clients, but you're also worrying about yourself and your own reputation, because you will help this client find the property, but you're going to stay in the marketplace. You're going to be dealing with these agents down the line, in the process, and you don't want to jeopardize your agent relationships and your other clients offers in the future. I always believe that honesty is a good way, but sometimes you can get creative with when you get honest and how to present it, and try to figure out what's the best way, which property to put an offer in first, when to do it second, and when to communicate to both of these agents that you have an offer on something else. So it's all tricky. It all depends. It's all case by case scenario. But sometimes, listen, it can be helpful because, for example, in this situation, these agents knew, and because we didn't get it in one offer, there was a stronger push for us to get it on the other property. So you just have to feel it, have a good gut feeling, and communicate it in a right manner and in a timely manner, and just play and figure out what's the best scenario for that particular situation. But I always go with the gut feeling on that. Anything else? I put in the chat my information again, just add all of us in the office. We're all been in your shoes. Sometimes you might want to hear somebody else's opinion. Sometimes you might have a question, or might have a question in regards of this class, something that you're going to realize, and it's oh, I wish I asked that, or whatever it is. Feel free to contact me whenever I can. I'm always happy to help you guys.
Thank you so much, Dragana.
That was awesome, Dragana. I got so much out of that. I took a lot of notes myself, so hopefully you guys all did too. And with that, if there's no more questions, then yeah, we'll have so tomorrow there's no Ignite, but there's Ignite again on Thursday, and there will also be script practice after the morning check-in on Thursday as well. So maybe we'll see some of you guys then. And yeah, thanks again to Dragana, and we'll see you guys soon.
Thank you, Ed, and thank you, everybody, and good luck with the rest of Ignite, and go, like, lead generate, like, find clients, take them out, show them properties, and write those offers, you know? That's what's gonna take.
Thank you.
Have a great day, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody. Have a great
Bye.
day.